What's going on, everyone? It's Adam and Craig with Grandstand Golf. This is our tournament and DFS preview for the 2021 Rocket Mortgage Classic Championship. What are we at here?
It's a Rocket Mortgage Classic, but
Classic.
I don't know if it's been around long enough that you can really call it a classic.
Well, there'll be one champion. Yeah, it's not a classic yet. It's new to the block. It's the new kid on the block.
Yeah.
Yeah, Craig, what's going on? It's been about a week since we've done this, just scaling back a little bit in the summer. Do you want to talk a little bit about last week?
Yeah, I mean, what's going on is we're here, I'm in BC, Adam's in Alberta. Yeah. If you've heard anything about going on in the Pacific Northwest, we're basically in a historic heat wave. We're going up to, here where I am, we're going up to about 44 today, which is, I want to say
degrees Celsius.
So that's about 110 Fahrenheit-ish, somewhere around there. So yeah, lots of staying inside for me.
Lytton, BC, what is that, 100, 200 kilometers away from you?
Yeah, not too far from me.
As the crow flies. 47.9 degrees Celsius, smashing the warmest day ever in Canada. It's like the Barry Bonds. We're saying it's like Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds. This record keeps getting broken every single day.
Yeah, I mean, 4 or 5 days in a row, we've broken the hottest record ever in Canada. 118 Fahrenheit is what it is in Lytton yesterday. So
I have no AC. You have a little bit of AC, but it's a little bit warmer where you are. I don't think we're going to get any rolling blackouts, but I feel like Johnny Drama in the Valley. Towel over my head, running from one AC theater to the next. That's how I feel like. Yeah, it's been a struggle. I'm in my basement, but man, it's still hot down here.
Yeah, let's just hope it doesn't hurt the Aquaman opening.
Yeah, let's beat Spotty. Let's still beat Spotty, okay?
Yeah.
So where were we last week?
Last week, Travelers. Are you just trying to hype up your one and done pick or what?
No, I'm not. I forgot to write it down on our sheet and I'm just blanking with this heat. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about last week. I had Harris English as my one and done pick. I was about $1 million points behind you. And yeah, for second time this year, I got a winner, 1.3 million. Got you by a couple $100,000 now, but it's a race, kind of leaving Kevin in our dust a little bit.
Yeah, it was in jeopardy there for about 8 holes of playoff. Yeah. I had just gotten back from camping and I was watching a little bit late in the round on Sunday. Fell asleep about somewhere in around the start of the playoff. Woke up, the playoff was still going on, so I feel like I didn't miss a whole lot. Got to see the end of it. Good win for Harris. Tough to know who I was cheering for at that point. It definitely was better for me DFS wise for Harris to win, but Kramer Hickok, it's always nice to see those guys get a first win. So wouldn't have mind seeing it go either way. But yeah, second win on the year for Harris English.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with Harris English. Obviously helped my DFS lineups. And then it sent that tweet on like the Tuesday or Wednesday before about like the Ches coming into 2019 and the Harris. They both are third at the US Open on the Pacific Coast, like the immediate before. Like it's all this like things that kind of match perfectly. So kind of cool to see that work out. I thought I'd get a couple more likes after the fact, but hey, that's Twitter. It's a
all
fickle.
All those likes, yeah.
Kevin went with Bryson. Maybe pulled him a week too early. He went with Bryson T19 87K. We don't have Kevin on this podcast, but I don't think he'd be too happy with that return for Bryson.
No, definitely not. I mean, my Streelman hurt. He looked like he was good after the first round, ended up missing the cut, so that one hurt. But Bryson, yeah, that's one that you like to have in the bag. So we're into the last stretch here, and it's getting tight.
It's getting tight. So we're only going to do this one show this week, Craig. So we're going to recap kind of our picks, our sleepers from last week, our picks, and then we're going to kind of talk through the entire field here a little bit. And this is going to be all kind of condensed into this one show, probably about an hour long. I don't know how long we're going to chat for, but that's what we're aiming for.
Depends on the tangents that I go off on.
Depends on the tangents, yeah. Okay, DFS pick show. I haven't had this for a little bit of a while, but 6 of 6 for us. Harris, obviously first. Abe Answer fourth after making the cut on the number with a birdie putt, I think, on his last on Friday. Brian Harmon, good pick there, T5. Cantley, T13. And then Doc Redmond and Scotty Scheffler rounded out for the 6 of 6. Yeah. Any thoughts on those guys? Higher, lower than you kind of were hoping?
Well, happy that I followed you in on Harris. It was a good pick. I think that the price was low. I mean, it seemed low. I don't remember what happened with the ownership number, but
And it was like it was quite a bit lower than FanDuel as well. Like FanDuel, he was priced up.
yeah. It was one of those ones
DraftKings
we spoke about last week, how there was very much a disparity between the two sites.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, I had so we'll get into our sleepers here as well, but I only made 5 lineups because I was going camping and I was going to miss all of the tournament, but
Totally.
I had either a Keegan Bradley or a Ricky Fowler on each of my lineups. And so I had all of them were either 5 of 6s or 4 of 6s. And man, Ricky making the cut would have gone a long ways for me. Still came out positive on the week somehow. I think it's just because of Harris, but yeah, close to being a really good week for me.
I made 2 lineups, both 5 of 6s. Could have been a little bit something special there, but with my Harris lineup, I had Griot. Decent points for not making the cut, but he charged late. And then I had Snedeker, which was kind of disappointing to see. He kind of bogeyed his, I think, third to last hole to miss the cut, just on the number there. So yeah, our sleepers, 3 of 6, nothing special. Sink, Ortiz, Gooch made it through, all in the kind of 30 to 47th type range. So I didn't get that Kramer type of sleeper that you hope for.
Yeah, Gooch was a disappointment. He started out well. I think he was either round 1 leader or tied for it at the end of the day. I don't remember exactly. So a bit of a disappointment to see where he went the rest of the week. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'll take a break even or a positive week any time.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Okay, we're moving past the Travelers. I mean, cool playoff. I didn't get to see much of it, but kind of same deal as you. But positive on the week.
I don't think we had any Hickok picks.
Oh, you're checking her? Yeah.
Just checking it right now. I don't see any Hickok picks. So let us know, as always, let us know who you guys like in the comments below. And if anyone gets the right one, then we'll shout it out.
How about this, Craig? How about this week? Because I think we're going to change around a little bit with this kind of new show format. How about 6K pick this week?
So 6K pick, highest 6K. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, pick the best in the 6K because it's a weird field a little bit. It's a really weird field, I think. And I think we could get multiple 6Ks in top 10 here.
Yeah, I also see no one else was in the comments here. No one else was hyping up Harris, following you in there. So no shout outs to be had there either.
I just shouted out myself, patted myself on the back, and moving on. Yeah,
when we get down into the 6Ks, I'll let you know. I've got a guy that I don't see a price yet on DraftKings. So
I got a couple there, and I don't know if they're going to be added.
We'll get I mean, DraftKings is usually pretty good about adding people, but when we get there, I'll get into a little bit more. But he's in, I've confirmed at least on the PGA Tour site that he is in the field. So
yeah. Okay, Rocket Mortgage Classic, Detroit Golf Club, Donald Ross design, par 72, 7,300 yards for a par 72, kind of short, kind of classic. 4 par 3s, 4 par 5s, 10 par 4s. This is from the PGA Tour, the flattest course on tour via ShotLink. So I don't know what to take away.
Surprises me a bit because for some reason I thought that the Sony Open in Hawaii, Wailea or whatever that one's called.
I don't know. I just have 18 sticking on my head there. No, that's Tournament Champions.
Yeah, no, the other one
Sony
is
Open's right on the coast. Yeah,
it's right on the coast. It's super flat. So I thought I had heard somewhere else that was the flattest. So we'll just have to.
Detroit Golf Club, north of Canada, obviously.
North of some parts of Canada.
North of a very small part of Canada, Windsor, I think. It's only the 3rd year we've been here. So 2020, Bryson DeChambeau kind of dominated, and then Nate Lashley in 2019 as an alternate one. So you've had kind of both in 2 short samples. You've had kind of 2 extremes of guys winning. A favorite going in and extreme long shot.
Yeah, and then also in 2019 we had Doc Redmond, who I'm pretty sure Monday qualified and almost he came
Yeah.
second. I don't know how close it was, but yeah, this was last year. I went very heavy on Bryson. This was my most profitable
Oh yeah.
tournament last year. Unfortunately, it was one of the ones where it was a I forget if it was. Maybe a 5 or 6 times in terms of my entries to my payouts, but it was one that where you get a lot of high finishes and you miss getting it into that very top range of the
Yeah.
GPPs. So it was a good one, but let's hope for a little bit better this time.
Yeah. Okay, weather. It looks like in Detroit they've had a ton of rain recently. They're going to have some rain Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe throughout the week, but not really. So it might be pretty soft. The winning scores here pretty low generally. So kind of pick it apart. If you want to aim for flags, have it stick, be on the kind of back to front slope greens. Anything you're kind of taking away from course setup, fit. Like, what are you thinking there?
Well, you put out a tweet earlier that everyone, because of Bryson and Wolf last year, first and second, everyone is kind of jumping on the Bombers. And it doesn't, you look at Data Golf's course fit information, it doesn't look like the Bombers are
Yeah.
really all that favored. And if you look beyond those top two on the leaderboard, we really don't see I mean, obviously distance always has some
For sure.
positive effect, positive
Yeah.
correlation, but it's not like there's a huge favoritism towards distance. I mean, I also think if you look at the field last year, Bryson and Matt Wolf, especially with where Matt Wolf's game was last summer, like those are two of the best players in the field. So that's
Yeah.
not entirely surprising beyond their distance that they were the top two players. In terms of fit, I'm not. Maybe I'm skewing a little bit away. If everyone is going to jump on the Bombers, maybe you go a little bit contrarian and avoid those guys. But I'm not. I'm not. I'm looking more at a strategic approach. I'm looking at kind of the avoiding some of the ranges. And I like the
Yeah.
guys up high. I think there's a fairly big hole. We kind of have a few elite guys, and then
Yes.
I think that I'm probably going to try to plug in two good players, maybe 10K or above. If not, definitely one 10K, one 9K, or high eights, and then down, and then go down.
Yeah, so I mean, going back to last year, Bryson is one of the best putters on the tour, and he had, I think, one of his best putting tournaments ever, and he won pretty dominating fashion, I think by a few strokes. Same thing, like if John Rahm was playing this week, I'd be like, yeah, give me John Rahm to bomb and gouge and pick apart this course because he is right now the best player on the planet. But I don't think that's necessarily the script for the rest of how these guys will do well. It just shows how good those guys are at that certain point in time. And that's kind of my approach. So I'm looking for accuracy over distance for sure. I think it will be wet. The roughs is a little bit thicker. Yeah, Bryson can knock it out. We saw Winged Foot. You can see it here, but that's not the strategy that I think a lot of these guys can employ. So I'd rather have people in the fairway, maybe a little bit further back, but even still, I'd rather have them in the fairway. I'm looking at guys that are strong in approach as always. That seems to be the best kind of week in, week out. Showcasing approach. How are they playing? How are their wedges playing? And then I'm probably leaning on either going to, like lifetime 2-year stats for strokes gained putting or like 30 days. How are they in the last couple tournaments? Are they do they have a hot putter right now that you can kind of ride? But either really good long term putters or riding a hot putter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not. With a field like this, I kind of feel like the course to me is not dictating necessarily what I'm going to do. I'm looking for talent. I'm looking for guys that kind of have that high upside. I'm looking for some of those, maybe guys who I feel like, a couple. Obviously, guys who are playing well, and I think the form is good to justify the play, or people who I think may not be playing or have not been playing well up to what their potential is. And I'm kind of looking for that bounce back. When this person turns it on, they can win.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's where
I think the other thing too, like if you have a model or something where you can kind of pull the stats and then almost like blackout or delete the names. I think that's kind of an interesting approach to take this week because we have so much bias. Like I have tons of bias. I know that. I have my favorite guys and I'll go back to them week in, week out. But because like, and this is kind of going back to what you said earlier, DraftKings needs to fill their pricing, in each tournament, and they are just handed the field that they're handed. So they need to find guys in the 9Ks, in the 8Ks that fit there, but they don't necessarily deserve to be there. So you can kind of black out and pick whatever stats, generate whatever model you want to generate, and kind of build a lineup from there. And I think you'd be surprised. Maybe that would lead you to like a Kramer Hickok last week.
And when it, essentially what we're saying there is they need to build a curve of prices. And so they need it will vary a little bit, obviously, but they kind of want to have a certain number of guys in the 9s and a certain number of guys in the 8s. And we see, obviously, in Majors Week that the guys, it skews differently. But the difference in terms of what you could expect in terms of the range of possible outcomes for someone in this tournament that's in the mid 8s versus in the mid 7s is different than it is in some other weeks. So sometimes when you kind of have holes in what you're projecting people can do, but then obviously you're at the same time weighing that against where's ownership going to go. So it was Palmetto where I said really I was avoiding that second tier, and you would have, that's where Garrett Higgo was, I believe, was in kind of after you get away from the top guys. So his ownership was not low that week, but you can sometimes find those guys that they are priced up because of having to try to get this pricing curve in there. Right. You can get kind of ownership and
even though he didn't pull it out though, Chesson Hadley would be a guy that I don't know if you would pick out by name. I mean, people that have been watching the PGA Tour for 10 years maybe, but if you're new to it or kind of just primarily DFS, and Chesson Hadley's not a guy like, oh yeah, here's my sleeper, unless you like started digging a little bit deeper or kind of.
Well, isn't he a former Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, but
yeah,
this is actually so. This is a rare one. PGA Tour Rookie of the Year 2014. Web.com Tour Player of the Year 2017. So that's one you don't often see, where they're the Rookie of the Year, and then they go down to the or now the Corn Ferry, and then the Corn Ferry Player Tour of the Year. But anyways,
those guys are good to keep in your back pocket because they will pop, and he will pop again sometime in his career, right?
And and he wins. Like he had the 2014, he had the Puerto Rico Open win, but then when he went down to the Web.com Tour, he won down there. Which those are the type of people that maybe when they do have their on weeks, you pay a lot of tax on them all the weeks they don't get it done, but then when they pop, they get up there into the top 5s.
I like that. You pay the tax on them. I like that. Should we jump into this?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we sort of had, but...
So, I mean, kind of, if you've listened to this show before, we're going to pick out a player of interest at each price point in each kind of price category here. But we're going to kind of talk through it all, maybe skim it as we go lower down. But above 10K, Craig, we got Bryson, starting with Bryson, Patrick Reed, Webb Simpson, Hideki Matsuyama, and Will Zalatoris. What are your thoughts? So you're talking about construction, maybe two guys up here.
Yeah, so I think you can do two guys up here. That leaves you, depending on who they are, that can leave you low 7-6 type thing. But I think you're fine playing two guys up there or one guy here, and then maybe I also don't mind one guy here and then an 8 and a 9 type thing. But we'll get to that when we get to the rest of the range. I'm not staying away from Bryson. I think Bryson's going to be very popular. He's kind of on a tier unto himself in terms of notoriety and I guess you could say long-term form. Yep. Not sure I love the recent form if you dig into it a little bit further.
No, I tend to agree there. So what I'm looking at for this week, I'm going to have my core lineup. I might build up to 3. I'm not going to do 20 max. I don't think this week, just with time, definitely not a 150 max. So I don't feel like I have so I'm going to pick my best lineup. And to be contrarian in a sense, I think that leads me away from Bryson and allows me to do a couple different things. So because I don't think he's necessarily bad play, I just think he's kind of a right in your face, and they'll have high ownership even at his high salary. A lot of people will play him. I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, to me, so if we're looking at Bryson, because coming into this tournament last year, he was on an absolute heater. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight top 10s coming into the week before he won here, and then obviously went on to win at the U.S. Open later in the 2020 year. If we're looking at this year, he has a top 10 at the Wells Fargo. And then, so back at the Players Championship. So he went win at the Arnold Palmer, tied for 3rd at the Players. He has the single tied for 9th at Wells Fargo. He hasn't been in the top 10 aside from that. So we're talking about 5 straight tournaments. Best finishes is tied for 18th. So if we're kind of projecting Bryson from last year at the Rocket Mortgage, it's a very, very different player. His form, like, that's why I think I might have gone 100%. This is when I used to do crazy things like that before John Rahm burned me. But it's just a very, very different player coming into the tournament. And so I think that you can stay away from him. I think you can play him. I'm going to probably lean towards looking at some of these other plays up in the 10Ks personally, because I think that's where I see a little bit more value.
The other thing too, looking back on the official World Golf Ranking site, like so the Wells Fargo was week 19. This will be week 27. So he's played 7 of his last 9 weeks, or this will be week 7 of his last 9 cross country, including a PGA, including a US Open. Like, that's taxing. No matter who you are, that's a lot of golf. That's Sung J M levels of golf. But I don't know if Bryson, I mean, he's slimming down. I don't know if it's the summer, he's just kind of sweating it through it, playing all this golf. He's slimming down a little bit, but that's still a lot of golf. And it's not necessarily his best golf. That's very middling for him.
Yeah, well, so, first off, on the slimming down, I mean, I think that's a little bit classic. I mean, you used to play college football. You guys would you would bulk in the off season, and you were not putting on weight during the season. I mean, maybe some people are when they're, 18, 19 first coming in, and they're not necessarily playing as much, and they're more in the developmental side of it. But it's hard to have the fitness regimen to be putting on weight or even maintaining a weight that is above what your body wants to carry normally. So I think
it's hard to do 2 days in August in that heat and
be putting on pounds. So I think we're just seeing a little bit. He's trying to keep his strength, but the kind of extreme weight game starts to taper back to what their body wants to be at. But I'm not putting a whole lot of weight into that. My guy, I'm looking up my player of interest, Patrick Reed, 10,900.
Okay.
It's not necessarily the most stellar record. He does have a couple missed cuts in the past couple months, but I think we're combining that with high finishes. He was 5th at Memorial, tied for 6th at Wells Fargo. Also a few that you'd like to see better. He's been good, but not great, I would say. But Patrick Reed is one of these guys to me that he can show up and he can win a tournament. And it's not really surprising when it happens. It's just like, why doesn't this guy win more? The ball striking has been, so tee to green, essentially all tee to green categories have been positive for the last 3 tournaments. I think his form's good. I think that if he putts well, obviously if he putts well, he can win, but he is someone who is prone to having these tournaments where he can just go out there and putt very, very well. So I like him. I do think it, if you're saying it's $500 cheaper than Bryson, it seems a little bit expensive maybe, but I'm happy to take the discount because I think Bryson's ownership is going to be higher as well.
Yeah, so I think you can call this one tier or maybe tier 1A with Bryson if you really want to separate them, and tier 1B. But I think it's basically these first 4 guys: Bryson, Reed, Simpson, and Hideki. And really, to be honest, you could throw all 4 of them up in the air. I could catch 2 and I'll be happy with them. But because of that, I'm going to take the cheapest one. I'm going to take Hideki, 10,400. Masters champ. But here's digging into a little bit why I like him. So he's played here both years. He finished 13th and 21st. He shot every single round, all 8 rounds under par. So he's not even shot par here. He shot better than par every single round, 8 rounds. He is positive strokes gain approach in 8 straight. And here's a funny one. He's positive strokes gain putting in 3 of his last 5. Obviously, I'm not including Masters because we don't have what. Maybe we'll have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's
no.
It's
just
right.
It's not what you expect from Hideki, and I would assume he was positive strokes gain putting at the Masters. I
think that's a fair assumption to make. And then he's for kind of what I'm looking for, he's accurate enough. He's 71st on tour in PGA in driving accuracy. For these guys that hit it out there, that's accurate enough for me. 71st is accurate enough.
I mean, to me, if you're above average in distance, if you're in the top 100 in accuracy, I think or in fairways hit, then I think that's great. I think you're kind of doing that good job of blending both. No, I like Hideki a lot. He'd probably be my second favorite play up here. I do like Webb as well, but probably Reed and Hideki. And then what do you think about Will Zalatoris?
So I do have to correct myself. I did include the Masters. I assumed it was positive at the Masters. So he's positive Masters, Byron Nelson, US Open. And then he was negative at the PGA and Memorial. So 3 of the last 5, he's been positive. I include the Masters. I like Webb as well. I definitely have question marks about injury. But I really like Webb, and maybe we'll talk about him a little bit later in the show. I have a question, and he's a good answer too. Will Zalatoris, I think, is a little bit of a bump down, and mostly because of his recent putting. What do you think of Will Zalatoris?
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking 5 tournaments in a row. That's the same thing I was going to bring up, actually. 5 tournaments in a row, negative putting. So Will Zalatoris, to me, we've seen him go from Corn Ferry Tour. This guy's a huge potential hot prospect to essentially we're now treating him like a top 20-ish player, 20 to 30-ish player in the world, and I'm okay with that. But the problem that I'm having is we're looking a little bit more and more like someone who is very, very good tee to green and is starting to show some cracks with the putter. So the PGA Championship is his best. He barely lost strokes there. He's minus 0.01 for his putting there, and he was top 10 there. But aside from that, we've seen him lose at least a half stroke putting in the other 4 of his most recent 5 tournaments. So I'm not super. I'm kind of touching him or treating him with the same gloves that I treat like a Hideki, a Keegan Bradley, a Griot, where it's not just an auto play for me every week. And so I think there's still huge upside there. I would love to see him get the win to get the PGA Tour full membership status as opposed to special temporary membership, because he deserves to be in the friggin' FedEx playoffs. So it's a little bit absurd that he won't be. So I will be cheering for him. I don't know if he will be in my lineups.
I'm sorry if you're listening to the podcast version and I went blank there for a second. I tried to mute myself in time, but I basically had a coughing fit. I thought I was going to have to continue on just by yourself, Craig. Went down the wrong pipe. I think I'm okay now. I'm teared up, but I think I can power through. Completely agree with Zalatoris. It seems a little bit weird. So I think as we go into the 9Ks here, to me, the next tier is Zalatoris to M. So that's Zalatoris, Niemann, Kokrak, and Sungjae, I think, are kind of the tier 2 for me.
See, I hear you, but I would put him firmly at the top of that tier.
I mean, head up. I would take Niemann, but that's just me.
See, so Niemann, I hear you. I really like Niemann. His recent play hasn't been awesome though. Like he's been very consistent, but not great. We haven't seen a top 10 since the Valspar, a single top 20 at the Wells Fargo back in May 9th. And then since then, 30th at the PGA Championship is his best in the last 5 tournaments. So I hear you. I really like Niemann. I really like kind of the long-term, long-term I'm buying. I'm just not necessarily, and this is where, okay, so in this field, maybe one of those long-term buys you like in this field, but I just am a little bit wary of his form.
And I mean, this is where we get into, and I think we'll talk about more in the AKs, but this is where you get guys where, I mean, the US Open or PGA, we're talking about guys high 6s, low 7s. And they're kind of forced into this field because they are the next best in this field, especially when you look at, I mean, the Sung Jae Ims, and I don't know if they deserve to be high nines.
Sung Jae, so he's another one to me. I was trying to talk myself into him. His form has not been good.
No.
I think, to me, I like Zalatoris and then probably Kokrak here at the high side of the 9Ks. Kokrak, we saw him win.
Well, let's talk about. Okay, I'm going to jump in here. My player of interest, 9K, Jason Kokrak. If you don't mind me kind of hopping in here, I got a few things.
Yeah.
And then, tell me what you think. So basically, it's a form play for sure. 5 top 13s or better in his last 8 tournaments. So 5 of 8, he's been top 13 or better, including the win. Positive strokes gained total in 25 of his last 30 rounds. That is extremely consistent when we're talking about guys in this range. He was 29th here in 2019. I think he does kind of fit. If you want to go more the Bryson profile, he fits that more. Strong off the tee approach. Strokes gained putting has been very surprising and very positive for him this year. I think I agree with you. If I'm playing one lineup, I think I'm going 2 guys in the 10Ks. Might be avoiding this, but if I am playing someone here, I'm looking at Kokrak.
Yeah, so just to flesh that out a bit more too, 5 of 8, he's been, what did you say, 13th or better?
Yes.
The 3 tournaments he wasn't, the Masters, the PGA Championship, and the US Open. So I think, if anything, he maybe right now give him a little bit of a bump down in majors and give him a little bit of a bump up in non-majors, because he seems to be doing a pretty good job rolling over these somewhat. And actually, some of these fields aren't even the worst. Top 10 at the WGC Concession, the Arnold Palmer, the Players. I like Kokrak. I think 95, to me, it definitely is. I like him. I put in my 9K play after you. I was looking at him, so I potentially would have had him as my top player of interest. But second guy I'm looking at, Keegan Bradley. So he burned me. He's at 9,000 flat. He burnt me a little bit this past week. He's missed 2 cuts in a row. And so I totally understand that people are going to be shying away from that. That's kind of one of the reasons I like the DFS play. The ball striking has continued to be fine. Going back to the Arnold Palmer, 7 straight top 30s going into the Memorial, and then he had the miscut at Memorial, miscut at Travelers. But I just really think that, the putter's always the question mark with Keegan. So the ball striking has continued to be good, and it's a ceiling play. I think 9 flat, the ownership that he was starting to attract, he was starting to be really chalky there for a while because he was so consistently getting results. I think that's going to fade away a bit, and so that is probably one of the major reasons I like him, is because you look left, I look right type thing.
Honestly, I agree. And as I'm unpacking kind of the strokes gained data per tournament on Data Golf, I kind of agree with you. There's good things to take away even from the missed cuts. He gained 2 strokes around approach at Travelers. He gained on the greens at Memorial. Those are both missed cuts.
Mm-hmm. It's really just been kind of sloppy. Like, his around the green play at Memorial is minus 2.6. His putting this past week is over, lower than minus 1.5. So it's just been some very ugly, sloppy scoring play. But to me, the elite approach play has been there all season long. Yeah. And then the off the tee continues to be pretty consistently gaining. Nothing special, but not in any way a detriment. So to me, that gives him a good. I don't care so much about the floor with Keegan. I don't think it is a great floor, actually, because of how sloppy, how bad the numbers can be around the green. But it's the upside.
To be honest, we're chasing a GPP win.
Yeah. And good Keegan shows up, and if his short game is good, he can win this tournament, even if other people are playing well. So that's sort of the upside that I think he brings.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's actually, if I'm building, a third lineup here, he's someone that I'm going to kind of put a star beside and unpack a little bit more, because it is interesting. And as I kind of look at the tournament and look ahead, I'm like, yeah, of course, Keegan is put a little bit tighter than everyone else. And, maybe he has an eagle putt, but he's able to tap in for, he can tap in for birdie a few times around.
Well, the other thing, and this is, so my initial feeling was to stay away from him, which to me, I kind of use that as somewhat of a indicator of what the sentiment is going to be. Yeah. So I think people have been burned by him at Memorial. People have been burned by him at Travelers. So I think that ownership's going to come down for him. And in this field, I like that.
Okay. Before we leave the 9Ks here, any thoughts on Bubba or Matt Wolff?
Yeah, I mean, to me, they have been a little bit high profile of recent, so that would be my hesitancy. I think obviously they have great ceilings, both of them.
Yeah, to me, it's not the profile I'm looking at for this tournament. So
Bubba looked like he was a rookie in his first tournament on Sunday. I mean, I didn't get to watch the whole tournament, obviously, but the little bit I saw when he was coming into the house, he looked like he was afraid of losing, which is funny.
Handful of bogeys and a double, I think. Maybe even fell out of the top 20. It's crazy.
It's just it's so funny with Bubba because he's like multiple time major winner. He's got so much success that you just don't expect that from a guy like him.
Not at all. Okay, 8Ks here. Moving on to 8Ks at the 21 Rocket Mortgage. I'm going to quickly zoom through this because I think it's an interesting group of guys here. We have Jason Day, Ricky Fowler, Woodland, Kisner, Homa, Higo, Griot, Tringali, Phil Mickelson, Siwoo Kim, and that's all. Charlie Hoffman is out. This seems a little bit like guys that are out of form, possibly coming into form. With a Day and Ricky, I don't know, Kisner. What do you like? This is a bizarre range to me.
So personally, I'm fine avoiding it. If not, I think the guy I like is right at the top of the range, Jason Day, 8,900. We saw, I mean, essentially, I guess it was one really good round, but he gained strokes every round last week. Ended up tied for 10th, and maybe that attracts ownership to him. But to me, essentially, if he is coming back into form, even if he has ownership at 8,900 in this field, Jason Day is a steal. So I'll take the risk that the ownership is, essentially, I don't know what the ownership's going to do, but if the ownership is there, if he's in form, I mean, Jason Day, he's a winner. He's top 10 in
number one.
In much better fields than this. So it's just we've seen everything from Jason Day this year, and I think
I have an angel and devil for me for Jason Day. I saw a report, I forget who kind of broke it, but basically they're like, in Jason's Day camp, they think something special is on the horizon. They think a win is on the horizon. Kind of reminded me of Phil and his brother and his wife at the dinner table before the PGA being like, yeah, I think something like, well, why didn't you tell any of the general public that something special is going to happen if you knew that you're playing well? So I hear that. And then of the golf I did watch last weekend, it didn't look good. Like his back, it's still a constant problem. It just looks stiff, uncomfortable. I don't know.
But you've also seen him look stiff and uncomfortable on his way to, like, when he's in contention, So
yeah. I don't know. Talent's there, obviously. Historically, he's one of the best players in the field.
So when we really have seen him slump this year, a lot of it has been with a bad putter. Which you think of Jason Day, you think of rock solid with his putter, but before the Travelers last week, we had 4 straight tournaments where we had strokes gained data. There was a couple other Masters where he missed the cut, likely was negative there, but really had 4 straight tournaments with negative strokes gained putting. This is a guy who 2016, he gained 1.18 strokes putting, which is absurd. But when he is good, his putter is, potentially as good as anyone. So the rest of it hasn't been his approach play. You'd like to see better, but he's gaining in all categories on the season. So I think in our minds, Jason Day is playing worse because we expect Jason Day to be Good Jason Day is one of the best top 10 golfer in the world. Maybe we can't give him that anymore because it's been so long and there's so many good players now. But essentially, a healthy Jason Day is a very, very dangerous player, and so even a not healthy Jason Day can be a dangerous player if he puts the pieces together. So I like the upside. In a field where I don't like, you're kind of looking for things to like. I like Jason Day at 8,900.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think this is a pretty big avoid area for the most part for me. The one maybe, and let me see if I can pull up some stats because I didn't really prepare him, but I might throw Ricky Fowler a look. He's just been playing a little bit better recently. I think this could be a place that he plays well at. Positive around the green in the last 4, positive strokes gained approach in 2 of the last 3. Same with putting, 2 of the last 3. Obviously, that's an 8th and 11th PGA Championship and the Memorial. Missed the cut at the Travelers. It could be something turning around.
Yeah, I mean, he was my sleeper pick last week. I still, for the same reason I liked him then, I still like him. Obviously, I like him a little more at a sleeper price than here. Just price-wise, value-wise. But I totally agree. I'm hoping that we are starting to see Ricky turn around just as a fan of Ricky.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move into the 7Ks. This is where I think it starts getting interesting. I think there's legit some guys that have winning upside.
So just real quick, other than that, you are avoiding the rest of this 8K range?
I think I still might be avoiding Day and Fowler. If I'm building, again, so I kind of have my main one already built, a secondary kind of half built. If I build 3, maybe I go in here, but there's nothing jumping out.
Higo, Griot, Tringali, none of that. Siwoo, none of those guys appealing to you?
Higo might spray it. Great putter, though. Tringali, the stats guy, but is he going to win?
Have we figured out for sure, is it Higo or Higo? Because I've heard both.
I did hear something else on the broadcast, I think. Higo. But I thought earlier when I was doing research on YouTube, it was Higo.
We'll throw it both ways for now, and then we can't be that wrong, but then we're still being a little bit wrong.
Wait till it goes back to South Africa and see, or maybe
we need to get Mark Immelman on the case.
I think Immelman did say Higo.
Yeah. But he's also said Bezadenhout in funny ways that always confuses me too. It's one of those ones where, like, do I chase the proper pronunciation or do I just roll with the one that everyone uses?
Like pho or pho. What is the soup? I love pho, but I don't think people will understand if I call it that. Well,
as someone who has a Vietnamese wife or a Vietnamese Canadian wife, if I call it pho, I basically am looked at like an idiot around the dinner table. So it is pho, and that's, it's funny because you sound super pretentious when you say that with other people, but
yeah,
you say pho around the dinner table, they look at you like you're an idiot. And so
okay, Canadian boy,
I'll take pretentious over idiot.
No soup for you. I want to move past the 8Ks.
Yeah,
so I get excited about the 7Ks because it's kind of
let's do it. 7Ks here.
A couple of guys to me jumping off right at the top is Brendan Todd, Doc Redman at 7,900.
Yeah, I like Doc. So another guy that when I was trying to come up with ranges or people for the different ranges, he was the one who was jumping out at me. And then I saw that you already had him as a player of interest. Oh. So I like it as well. He was one of my picks last week. Didn't really get it done on the weekend, but I still think, to me, the upside is what attracts me about Doc.
Yeah, so we talked about him a little bit in our Discord. Discord link is below on YouTube if you want to join that and join the chat. But basically, I was like, Doc, 7,900 kind of ticks all the boxes. Maybe that's leading to a miscut, like it's the trap play where, like, nothing's glaring here, but he is volatile, especially this year. But okay, he's runner up here in 2019, as we already talked about, 21st in 2020. So he backed that up with a pretty good result in 2020. Positive strokes gained approach in his last 5. Positive strokes in putting in his last 6. 2 top 10s in that range, so he can pop. Those are the stats I'm looking for. He's checking the boxes. Good course history. He seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, I mean, essentially one of the things I was saying about him last week was when he's playing well, his ability to get up into the top 5 and get high finishes. We're still waiting on the win for Doc, but I think he is. I think the talent of Doc Redman is that of someone who's going to get PGA Tour wins. So I really like it. He's made 5 straight cuts. The approach play seems to have turned itself around. Like you said, the putter has turned itself around. So yeah, I really like it. Maybe ownership is the only thing I worry about, but definitely I'll be plugging him in.
I think he could be one of the top 5 highest owned guys.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, it's early on Tuesday, but that's just from chatter. Little birdies. That's what the little birdies seem to be telling me.
I think there's a lot of people that are seeing, I think there's a lot of people that appreciate what his upside is. And so there's a lot of people seeing him starting to turn it around and know that he could be on the verge of popping for a win here any moment.
Yeah. Okay. Who's your player of interest, Craig, in the 7Ks here?
So I've got a lot of players that I'm interested in, because essentially the way I'm looking at it, I'm either going, say 2 guys in the 10Ks, or say 1 in the 10K, and then Bradley and Day at 8 and 9.
Sure.
And then I'm really having to fill out my lineup. So I've been looking at a lot of guys down here, but Alex Noren, 7,600.
Yeah.
This is one, I've sort of been talking about Charles Schwartzel as someone who I'm just long-term upside on, where I'm going to be buying him a lot on tournaments just because I think that the long-term upside is there. I'm feeling the same way about Alex Noren. I think that we have seen better play from him in past years than we have this year. And I think we're really... we're starting to see it trend back in that direction, but to me, the price doesn't really match what the pedigree or the recent results. So he did miss the cut at Palmetto, which was disappointing, because I think he might have been a pick of mine there. I can't remember. But other than that, the 5 weeks before that, he had 4 top 25, 4 out of 5 were top 25s. The one he didn't was the PGA Championship, which is, we're talking about a whole different field.
And kind of a crapshoot there. Like tons of stars missed the cut, and yeah,
for sure. But I just think that the upside is good for Noren, and we're seeing him play good golf. The thing that is a little bit hard with Noren is that most of the guys around this range, you're like, oh yeah, they're a really good driver, or they're a really good ball striker, and this is a really bad putter, or one of the ball striking categories at least. He's kind of just he does everything well at different times, but more so short game than anything else. So it's harder to really get too excited about that. But I just think that he's one of these players that can do anything well, and then when it all lines up, he really has very, very good weeks.
Yeah, and we talk about this all the time, but you like to see, when you go in the 7Ks and 6Ks, guys that have won. And this is a guy that has 10 European Tour wins throughout his career, 11 professional, a Challenge Tour win as well. So he's a winner, but I agree. You look at his stats, it's like they're middling. Like, he hasn't really gained on approach, but he also has collected these top 25s, 3 straight, and 4 of 5. Hot putter, around the green game has been really solid. Yeah, but approach, I think we both love guys that are good on approach, and it kind of scares you away a little bit.
Yeah, it does, but then you look at, so he has 4 tournaments where he's gained at least 0.8. That's not the best, I guess, 0.8, but it also means that he can have those tournaments where he has really good approach play. So I don't know, I like Noren. I think 7,600 in this field, to me, I definitely will be plugging Noren in.
7,600. It's a packed area here. We got Snedeker 77. He was one of my picks last week. Kind of like him again. McNeely has been talked a lot about. A lot of people talking about McNeely at 77. Seb Straka at 77. 76, we got Stanley. We have Hickok. I think when you look down here, there can be guys that are too highly owned, because there's a lot of guys that
So the guy that I almost had as my player of interest was Sepp Straka. He is 7,700. He's been 11th and 8th at this tournament the last 2 years, and he was tied for 10th last week at the Traveler. So there's a lot of things to like.
Yeah.
My one concern, he's the one guy I worry a little bit about ownership, because you get the people who look at history, tournament history, and will plug him in. You get the people who looked at last week and will plug him in for that reason. So I'm gonna be playing Straka, but I just, to me, I think the value that you're going to get on Noren is a little bit better, and that's based on ownership more than potential outcomes. But I think both those are very good plays. Straka likely will have a bit more ownership.
I mean, there's just a ton of guys in the mid to low sevens you can make a case for. Either have some good, decent form, or have played the course well before, or are being kind of slept on because they maybe are trending out of a slump. It's just interesting.
What do you think? What do you think about Kramer Hickok, 7,600?
Probably it's gonna be a pass. I like the other guys around, but it'd be great if he followed up his performance at the Travelers with a good finish here again.
Yeah, as just a fan of golf, you'd love to see it because a win would be huge for someone like him at this point of their career. But to me, the price has gone up significantly. You combine that with, he actually was tied for 14th at Charles Schwab, which I wasn't super aware of. But I just think there's going to be too many people who are going to play him this week based on what happened last week for there to be value there.
Yeah. Moving into the low sevens, Cam Davis, 7,200 looks to be kind of a popular pick again. I don't think I'm going to go there, Craig. One of my boys. But I can understand if people are going with the bombers, going with people that can, birdie or better. Cam Davis will stick out, of course. Thoughts there, or kind of a pivot in that area?
So I've kind of been cooling on Cam Davis a bit just because the results have not been great. I don't think I'm going to get there this week, but I would like to jump back on the Cam Davis bandwagon. It's just, we haven't seen, the ball striking hasn't been as good as it was kind of early 2021.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. The one guy that kind of sticks out to me a little bit here, Putnam at 7,100. Andrew Putnam, good Travelers, 13th there, to make the cut of the Palmetto, but didn't really do well. But positive 1.39 on approach at Travelers, positive putting, generally one of the better putters throughout the year. Just kind of fits that profile that I'm building as the guys that, I think can sneak into a top 20, top 10 here.
Yeah, to me, Putnam's a guy that misses a lot of cuts and then occasionally just he gets high up, and maybe that's something you do see with people who are good putters, where when they do well, maybe a little bit like Kevin Na, where when he's hot, he's hot. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Putnam's someone I usually stay away from just because most of the time it feels like he's missing cuts, but
it happens quite a bit. I mean, if we dip down into 6Ks here, there's a lot of guys. I mean, most of these, if you look on DraftKings, most of these are 50-50 or worse made cut percentage on the year. But there's a ton of guys. So, I mean, do you want to talk about strategy here or guys that might be...
Well, just real quick, because I'm just pulling them up here. One last guy that I feel like I really struggled to understand is Bryce Garnett, 7K flat, tied for 5th. I mean, a little bit of a backdoor tied for 5th because everyone else fell off the map. But he gained 3.5 strokes per round putting, which I'm just like, oh man. But
that's one of the highest numbers I think I've seen
for over the year. You see that maybe like partway through a tournament, but then for that to go all the way through the tournament is something special. But yeah, maybe a little bit of value there at 7K. I don't quite know.
17th year in 2019. To me, he's always, if you're looking kind of the fairways, safer fairways and greens, and then if he gets that putter going, it's a top 10. That's kind of Bryce Garnett.
Yeah. Interesting
for showdowns.
You're really having to look for those diamonds in the rough here this week.
I mean, you are. It's interesting. And there's also a lot of guys getting lots of guys live with like kind of less than 5 starts in this area. So yeah, do you have some that you kind of tease at the top, that guys that aren't on the DraftKings?
Well, I'm just going to refresh it here to see if they have added him. So if you want to go ahead with your 6K play.
Yeah, I'm going to go with someone in kind of the middle range here that I don't think is going to get really any attention, but that's Fawn Taylor at 6,600. Again, kind of the profile I'm just building for my roster that I think these guys that are going to be successful. Bryson popped off for a win, but I'm kind of building this kind of safer accuracy, driving accuracy, rolling some putts type of person. And I think Vaughn Taylor kind of fits that. So 22nd in driving accuracy on the season, positive strokes gained approach in 2 straight and 4 of his last 6. Which I think is pretty strong for 6,600. And then positive strokes gained putting in 6 of his last 8. So fairly good kind of consistent results here. He was 46 here in 2019. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4% ownership. So a guy you can kind of plug in some chalkier guys like Doc Redman and feel pretty good about your lineup, I think.
Yeah. So they did add the guy who I was going to bring up as my 6K play. Unfortunately, he's not a 6K play anymore. So they're coming in at 7 flat. Mito Pereira. Mito? I'm going with Mito. Mito Pereira. This guy, if you're following kind of the buzz, I'm sure you've heard he's won back-to-back wins on the Korn Ferry Tour to get the automatic 3-win promotion. He had a win, I want to say some point in 2020. I think early 2020.
Yeah, early.
So he's got the 3-win promotion, but not just these back-to-back wins, but top 10s in 5 of his last 6. So just playing very well. He comes in at 7 flat, which is a little bit more expensive than I would like it to be. But obviously you're doing a lot of things right. We don't, you don't get the breakdown in terms of how they're doing it on the Korn Ferry Tour. So a little bit less to go on there in terms of strokes gained categories. But if someone's playing that well, I think there's just form that you have to respect. So I'll throw out another one. I like him still at 7 flat. I think that's a fine price. The other one though that I will throw out to have someone that I throw out in the 6Ks, and this is probably the player I'm playing that you shouldn't, is John Pack. He's gone all the way down to 6,300. We've seen a little bit of a roller coaster from him. He's got 2 starts since he's turned pro. He was, I think, a -8 strokes gained in his first one, and then he had a poor Friday to miss the cut this past week. But I still am a firm believer in the talent, and so 6,300. We're getting him at based on a couple bad outings since he's turned pro. We're getting him at a pretty darn good price. So I do think there's a very, very high upside there. Likely someone that we are going to see not have instant success maybe, but that's fine. I'll take some shots with him because the potential and the talent to me at 6,300 in this field, lets you do a lot of things.
It's interesting kind of going through these guys that were alternates or Monday qualifiers that got in. A lot of early birdie Twitter talk on Seamus Power. Boom, they slapped a 7,500 price tag on him. So not exactly a sleeper. He's kind of in the mid-range there. Another guy I was key to see where he'd be priced at was Ben Martin. Got pulled. He made the playoff of the Monday qualifier, then got pulled after sinking it to 3 feet because he got in as an alternate. He's priced at 6,800. I think he's an interesting person there. I would like to see his price a little bit lower. But one of your former kind of guys that you've ridden before, Justin Suh, did qualify Monday. He's priced down at 6,100.
Ooh.
That seems a little bit
tasty
to me. I don't know. That seems to be juicy. Kind of a hard guy to get a read on a little bit for me, but talent, man. There's talent down there.
Definite talent. The other thing, just real quick on John Pack, he had a bit of going into the Palmetto where he really fell on his face right out of the gate. He had a bit of a whirlwind there where he was going, traveling from here to there to pick up an award, and then traveling from there to here to it wasn't a normal lead into the tournament. So I do think, now that things are starting to normalize for him and kind of the week in, week out life of a golf pro, I think that's when we're going to start to see results. But maybe he is going to be someone like Justin Suh, where we don't see the talent turn into results for a while. So I definitely like taking some shots with some of these guys. Maybe don't put too many of them in the same lineup, but
Just too bad Ramos in your 80%er at the US Open.
Yeah.
But man, we've been predicting that one for a while. Like the Rom stats were unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of wanted to add a kind of a last thing here to this show. And if you have recommendations, leave them in the comments, but kind of a rapid fire Q&A to wrap up the show, Craig. And if you have any, I think I threw a couple in here, but if you have any, fire them back at me. But early one and done lean, or do you not want to talk about that because it's tight race now? Don't want to talk about the lean. I can go first if you want. I don't have one, but I got kind of two guys I'm looking at.
So I think I already know what my play is, but I'm going to hold on to it until you make your official pick, because now things have gotten serious for me. So if you want to make your official pick, then I will go afterwards. But
I'm not making my official pick. It'll be released on Twitter on Wednesday, but the two guys I got penciled in are Kokrak and Redman. Guys we've talked about today. If you're just looking at them, Kokrak seems to be the obvious one in terms of salary. But there's a lot of things to like about Redman. I don't know. Maybe I'll find some new information late Tuesday night and I might change it up. But those are two ones. Okay, this was another one. DFS play that you're making that you wouldn't recommend others to make.
Yeah, probably John Pack.
John Pack. See, mine, I'm going at the top. I'm going Webb Simpson. Like I like the play, but it doesn't come without risk. Like there could be something wrong with Webb. That's why I would recommend Hideki over him, but I'm still gonna play him.
I would say probably the DFS play I'm making that you should avoid is stacking John Pack at 6,300 with Justin Suh at 6,100. And then what else can I do? Mito Pereira. What does that let me do with the rest of my lineup?
Bryson.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's going to be those kind of low, what do we call it, the Madden franchise mode plays where, these are guys that likely if you're taking a multi-year outlook on it, then for sure this is someone who you like the upside potential of in the future, but maybe you don't necessarily need to be making all of those plays all at once.
Yeah. Okay. Last question I've written down here. Any bets or parlays or anything you're looking at early on?
No. So, I guess on that note, I would say that up here in Canada, they have passed the single game. So we just passed a big bill through our parliament. I think it's going to Senate for review, or is it just past Senate review? I think it's going to Senate now. So essentially what we had before, you could not do a single game bet. So what that means is like any sort of single event. So I couldn't bet Rory to win the Masters, but what I could do was bet Rory to win the Masters and for the winning score to be -5 or better. So it's just what it is really going to do effectively is open it up, and I hope it's a province to province here, similar to the States where it's state to state. But what I really hope happens is that they are gonna, instead of, at this point we have a lot of like the provinces do their own sports books. But what I hope they do is more just partner with major sports books and get licensing fees from them to operate in the province, because that would just make it a lot easier and make it a lot more enjoyable to be looking at lines from these major providers and stuff.
Yeah, hopefully it's just, pretty much all legal, however it can be in the future here.
Yeah,
but it's going in the right direction. I just threw a few weird ones out there. Because I think they're guys that can pop for outright bets. But I got Ben Martin. I talked about him at 250 to 1. Denny McCarthy.
Each ways or no?
These guys are all each ways because they're such long odds. Yeah. All each ways to 5 places. Denny McCarthy, 225 to 1. And Chris Ventura at 350 to 1. Chris Ventura is a great putter, but bomber as well. But he's just a guy that he can pop, I think.
Yeah, we've seen it happen.
Maybe not
before.
A DFS play, but hey, who knows? Who knows what can happen?
Yeah.
Yay, I think that's our show. I kind of forget. It's been a while since we've done this. I kind of forget how we wrap it up, but we're going to say on the YouTube comments, let us know rapid fire question you'd like to see and your favorite 6K play this week for the Rocket Mortgage. Anything else to add here, Craig? Follow us on Twitter.
Yeah, no, his favorite 6K play. One guy we didn't bring up right at the top of the 6K is Nate Lashley. Former winner. Maybe that's the one you want to throw in there. Maybe not. I don't know if I'm getting there myself, but yeah.
Yeah, good point. Thank you everybody for watching, for listening on the podcast. Download our podcast. All those links are below, and we will see you again soon.
Yep. Take care, guys. Good luck this week. We'll see you next time.